Hi, everybody. Anayashimasu. So tonight is we're still on chapter 9. We've broken it down into three parts. This is part 3. Part 3 is connecting with your partners, or as Curtis Sensei describes in that section of the book, option A, struggling, option B, collapsing, or option C, connecting. So he's been talking about this for a very long time. And he's even taught seminars on it. I mean, if you go back and read some of his transcripts, I mean, in 2017, when he went in to give a seminar at the Eastern Key Federation, he taught this. He's taught it before that. And he's been teaching it pretty much his entire time as an instructor. So, in fact, he even said this is the one of the meanings of Aikido is connecting. Not struggling. I mean, he used to say you don't want to fight with your partner, you don't want to receive them and run away, but you want to connect with them. And if you even look at this on a global perspective, it's kind of like you can make war, you can build a wall, or you can build a bridge. One of those three things. That's pretty much everything that happens if you take it from, a one-on-one confrontation all the way up to a global situation with countries. We've seen that happen before. So I'd like to start off just by getting your guys' thoughts on this section of the book. It's not, it's 2 pages. It's the last 2 pages of this chapter. Um, I like it. I've always liked this style of instruction. This makes teaching, this kind of format is really easy to teach on the mat. I find this a lot more challenging for me to teach us in a Zoom situation or in just a lecture situation because there's so many physical examples you can give when you're teaching an Aikido class. It's really easy. And people can go, oh yeah, this is what it's like when I'm, beating up against someone and trying to force them. Because that's, option A is nothing more than trying to control the person, which is what a lot of people try to do. And then there's also the option B, which is I'm just going to ignore it. This isn't happening, rather than to actually, build that bridge, offer yourself, be open to the other person on whatever they give you. So, with that in mind, does anybody want to start off with what they thought about these 2 pages of chapter 9?
I have a
Good choice.
question to say.
Yeah, sure.
I've been watching The Expanse
Yeah.
from John's suggestion, and there's a character in there that I forget the names, but anyway, they were opponents, and the one character said, you and I are going to draw blood sometime soon," and the other character said, "Well, I'm available now." Is that making a connection?
No, that's inviting option A, I would say.
Oh, I thought it was a pretty good response. I mean, he was agreeable.
Yes, it's clever. It's
I
a
mean,
clever response.
I don't have anything planned right now.
Yeah, let's just throw down right now. I'm ready. Yeah, that's the easy response. That's of course I've been watching that show as well. For those of you who don't know, it's on Amazon Prime. It's a space type science fiction show. It's pretty well written, pretty well done. But yeah, people who are looking for fight or just to conflict, just to be the opposite, they're always pushing people's buttons in a sense. I have been that person on many a times of instigating that kind of thing or trying to get a response out of somebody, and seeing if they'll fall for it. Like, ooh, are they gullible to this? And then I'll poke. Um, that is, you know, people con- might mistakenly think that's oh, I'm going to connect with them. I'm, that's my way of connecting with them. But actually, it's a subterfuge for them just wanting to fight, or to accentuate their struggle. And I think that brings up a really interesting point. If you know, it's kind of like. If somebody is in pain, they'll give you they'll have anger in them because they're in some sort of pain. It might be physical pain, it might be mental pain. I mean, how many times have you had, something come up where you're not in the best of mood, where, yeah, you know how to do Aikido. The other person doesn't even train in Aikido, but yet you're just in a bad mood. You're just having a bad day and you snap at that person, right? That is option A. You're giving option A, and the other person might be taken back by that, going, "Hey, oh, I'm sorry," And have you ever felt that when somebody who doesn't train in Aikido actually does it better than you? I mean, I've had that happen to me before, where the person gave me oh, they're connecting with me, and I'm not being attuned to that response, and then it's like, oh, it kind of gives you that wow, oh, okay moment of oh yeah, I've got to remember to do Aikido here. So yeah, interesting question there, Fincher. Gloria.
Since Fincher brought that up, it reminds me of it actually happened. Tohi Sensei was asked to, I guess, teach principles of Ki to a police department. And it wasn't, I don't think it was the one in Kihei. I think it was somewhere on the mainland. And so one police officer asked him what he would do if somebody stuck a gun in his back. So he said, okay, go ahead and do that. And then he um, said, I thought to myself, what a nice, oh, he said, he stuck the gun in his back and he said, don't move or I'll shoot. So he thought to himself, what a nice man. He won't shoot me unless I move. Then he goes like that and disarms the policeman. And so he asked him something, there were a couple of steps. And the last one was, can we do that with the bullet?
Oh, you're muted, Gloria. You muted yourself.
Yeah, okay. He said, are you ready to die? They didn't do it with the gun.
Right.
With it loaded.
Tohi Sensei's response is, are you ready to die, right?
Yeah, are you ready to die? And I was like, no.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Those stories of the old days are we have to remember, we have to take them with a grain of salt, in a sense that that's kind of how they had to explain things then. Of course, we probably wouldn't do the same kinds of explanations now. Um, yeah, it got to the point where, if you read anything about Toy Sensei's history, he used to take on all challengers. Oh, if anybody wants to challenge me, come, and I heard the story about the guy who comes in with nunchucks and starts swinging them around, and Toy Sensei key eyes really loud, and he drops them, on the ground, and just because the guy was not expecting him to key eye so loud and shock him that much. But then they had to put out a thing saying, we're not doing that anymore. We're not taking on all challengers. That's not what we do anymore. That was, I think, probably in the late 70s when that probably took place. Maybe
yeah, I think he felt like he had to prove himself to some people, and so that was why he, as Nalwai Sensei would tell it, he would go to like a karate dojo or whatever and invite people to attack him, and then he would do essentially randori without them knowing they were doing randori. So they would go, oh wow, this is something I haven't seen before, and then they would get interested. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah, very interesting. Lillian, what do you think about this? Option A, B, and C.
Aloha, everybody. Hi, Sensei. Um, in my book, my manual, next to option A, I put expression. Next to option B, I put repression. And next to option C, I put addressing.
Yeah.
Because I've mentioned it a couple times. One of my favorite transcripts is the perennial practice. And he says, in fact, that's what I was reading before class while I was sitting here, I was rereading it. And it says, I'm going to quote something Curtis Sensei wrote in that thing about, I'm not suggesting we ignore anything. Our practices accept without preference whatever comes to us and deal with it, taking responsibility for our own emotional state. Don't suppress it, don't express it. We simply experience it completely. So when you were saying earlier about, it's so easy to do option A, B, and C on the mat. That's true. It's also sometimes, as you'll know from seminars, people play around with it a little too much. But whether you take it physically or emotionally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it, it all boils down to that same thing. And I remember saying at one of the seminars, half jokingly, half seriously, to Curtis Sensei, because it finally had one of those moments that, oh yeah, like, why haven't you taught this before? Because sometimes we have to do it over and over and over until we get it, which has always been one of the reasons why I always told, in the dojo, I've said, you need to go to as many classes as you can, as many seminars especially, because sometimes we need to hear someone say it through their own experience or maybe a little bit different. I always, with all the people in this Zoom classes, I keep telling some of the people when we do the little breakaway meetings that they're so profound. They think on such a deep level that sometimes I don't know that I do that, But to me, by experiencing the moment as much as I can, or remember to as much as I can all the time, that somewhere, like in a teaching situation, it might not be profound, but it might speak to somebody somehow. My goal isn't to get everybody. I'm a teacher because I was put in the position to be a teacher. I didn't seek to be a teacher. So whatever they can gain from me, I'm happy. And along the way, continue to train. And that ABC thing is really a great, probably the most simplified way to explain it to me. So I just think this is a great part of the chapter. So, and thank you for explaining what enhanced was or whatever, because I was lost there for a minute. I thought I missed some good book.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I like that. He'd always say, don't express it, don't suppress it, just address it. I really like that. Yeah. Especially we either tend to do option A or B. We either express ourselves too much or we suppress it and don't say anything at all instead of just addressing it, just coming to terms with it. And the thing of it is how do you address it? There's various ways of addressing it. You can address it you can address it yourself in your meditation practice. That's I think the best way to come to terms with it is when you're meditating. You treat it like you would. A lot of times, it can be you can be very emotional about whatever it is that you have to address, and you have to look at that as like a hot stone. You're not gonna just go up to a hot stone and touch it. You'll burn yourself. You gotta let it cool down a little bit, and then you kind of deal with it as it cools down in temperature. And then when it gets so, to a point where you can handle it, then you can apply, your whole mind and body to the situation and address it that way. Another way to address it is if it's a really hot situation, of course you can talk to Curtis Sensei about it or somebody else that's your teacher and kind of get some tips going, hey, I've got this issue I'm dealing with right now. Do you have any suggestions? And another thing, you can go to therapy. There's therapists that handle this stuff professionally. If it's something, something traumatic. I mean, you know, think about if this could be any situation from somebody close to you dying to and when we think about death happens in many forms, and that's why this last when I taught a few Fridays we kind of talked about that, because the death can happen from realistically somebody can die, but also you can lose your job, you can lose a friendship, there's many forms of death that come across every day. When something wears out, you'll never use that thing again. It's the death of that thing, and either go get a new one or do without. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that death can arise, and you have to address it, because if you suppress it, it will come out. And usually, see, once you suppress enough, if you keep doing option B, option B, option B, then it's going to come out in option A. And then it's going to be like a thunderstorm, it's going to be very, like shocking for people to be around. So that's why we want to address it as it appears, so that way it doesn't build up. And I used to tell this to Curtis Sensei. I go, Sensei, I said, I said, everybody has problems, and a lot of people just take their problems and they put them in the closet. They don't want anybody to see their problems. They just put them in the closet. Nobody looked. Like if I went to your house and just opened up your closet and started going through things, you'd be like, whoa, 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 don't do that. That's kind of what Curtis Sensei does sometimes emotionally to people. He just kind of opens the closet door and starts rummaging through things, and you're like, "Whoa, I don't want to talk about that right now," and that comes out, but he wants you to address it. That's all he's wanting you to do. He's like, "Well, you need to clean your closet, or if you don't clean it, I'll help you." And sometimes it's good to have help, but then sometimes you just want to do it on your own, of course, you know. So. With that being said, what do you think, Kayomi?
Hello, Sensei. Hello, everybody. Um, um, I think these three things are wonderful. I appreciate having vocabulary to understand my recent experience. I have one person just started working and teaching Japanese to students. And I wasn't getting along with this person. For some reason, this person just evokes my emotional reaction. And I thought I was a calm person, but I wasn't calm at all. When she's so set in her way. So for example, if my boss said, we don't teach this, don't sing because we have a limited time. And then when we have a lesson plan, she sings. And she said, don't do this. And she does it. So usually I don't correct people in front of everybody. I usually do that privately because I work a little longer than her and I was training her. And I got so frustrated. She just told you don't do it. Why do you do it, right away? So I said in public, only 3 people, but then I said, she just said don't do it, so don't do it. So I corrected. I think it's hurt her ego very much. And I don't know why I got really, maybe it's a projection or something, I think, going on in me. She makes me react. And so I was basically fighting against her, not willing to change or learn the way we do things at school. Because I went through the same thing last year, but I was trying to learn as much as I can. But she's little bit different. So I think I can see I was really fighting and struggling and telling her, don't do this, don't do that. And then I didn't feel well. I thought, oh, I thought I was a kinder person, you know, what's going on with me? And then next thing I thought was, okay, you know, I already finished training her, so it's not my responsibility. If she fails or she succeeds, it's not mine. Why am I taking this responsibility? So I said, don't worry about it. Whatever she does, I'm fine. So basically, I'm doing B, just ignoring that. And then a few days, and you mentioned therapy, right? I'm a life coach, so I have my friend is also a life coach. We have an exchange session, so we practice this like every week. So it was my turn, so I brought it up. I talked about it. Then she said, well, she has reason um, to me, she was very insecure. So she was clinging to her old way, what she did at her the school before. She didn't want to change. But then this person said, what makes her feel like she wants to cling on it? So I said, oh, that's insecurity. She must feel so uncomfortable being in this new environment. And that's why she doesn't want to let go of her old way. You know, she probably feels, oh, she can do better if she knows, you know, like before. So I said, okay. So she's very insecure about it, uncomfortable. Then this person told me, you don't have to like her, but you can understand her this way. So then I thought, okay, I understand because I was new in different school and I was going through the same experience. That's why I think I was very frustrated with her. You know, she was different. How she learns is very different from me. So I was frustrated. So probably it was my projection. Then I thought, okay, being uncomfortable is a nice feeling. So I started having compassion, understanding, and then I started feeling, you know, more compassionate about this. And then I think third day, I just let go. I asked me, you know, who's fighting against her? Who is ignoring her? That's my ego. And then who wants to connect with her? That would be probably a different side of me. So maybe more a bigger part of me. So I thought, okay. So I became kinder. And today it was pouring rain in Honolulu. So I offered her a ride. She walks and she take a bus. So I said, okay, I can give you a ride. I don't want you to get wet. And then in the car, she started talking very, you know, friendly, and I became friendly. I thought, oh, I kind of maybe like her. So I just totally in this within 1 week, I started going to ABC. I just couldn't see her goodness when I was full of ego. I was fighting. I was trying to, you know, forget about her and stuff like that. So I'm so happy that, thank you for giving me these vocabulary so that I can understand my experience. Thank you.
No problem. I mean, I'm not giving you the vocabulary Curtis Sensei is, that's for sure. We're just kind of covering it in this chapter. You know, I don't take credit for any of this stuff. I mean, I've just attended his classes enough to where I can kind of remember, oh yeah, he means this when he says this, you know, or this might be a way that can help you. Um, Trust me, I'm not one to invent anything. So yeah, but the vocabulary is good. I mean, I have to agree with you there. Having a vocabulary to be able to explain yourself, because there's nothing worse than having an issue and not being able to explain it, and for other people to understand it clearly. You know, we all are professional communicators. We all talk. So really that's how, you know, communication and understanding one another and having it clear between us is super important, you know, to get your points across. So I can completely agree with you on that for sure. With that being said, Alaria, how are you tonight? Any comments or questions on this section of the book?
Hi, Sensei. Hello, everyone. I really liked, well, of course, what Kiyomi said and also what Paiva Sensei said. She taught us the express, suppress, address. And yeah, I think that's another really helpful way to look at it on that side of things. Really, the only thought I had was, and you kind of said this earlier, some people think that they're connecting with someone when they're being aggressive, and they think that it's like a way of connecting, and it's kind of like, it's clever, and I think we lie to ourselves a lot thinking that we're doing C when we're either doing B or A, and that just seems like a very ongoing issue.
Yes, that is true. I'm not the only one that lies to myself. Yeah, I thought you said, yeah, when you said that, I'm actually sometimes lying to myself when I'm thinking I'm doing C, but actually I'm doing A or B. Yes, that is a common cognitive response because we have to be with ourselves every day. So we want to legitimize things. We want to make them, oh yeah, this is okay. This person, if this person did this to me, then it's okay that I do that to them. Or, and that just is another form of A. And you get the people that are passive aggressive, you know, they're like, they smile when they stab you in the back, or take out those type of people as well. We've all come across them in our daily lives, especially a lot of times in business. I'll see this in the work environment more so than anywhere else. And that's where people are competing and striving to get ahead. And they think, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that promotion, or I'm going to do whatever this, and by stepping on people rather than raising people up, that's a very common thing that this kind of talks about. Option A, Curtis Sensei calls it struggling, but you take that struggle into an outward expressive manner, and it's going to be, you know, uh, a fighting situation. We physical fights are one thing you rarely see, but trust me, everyone has a war with words. And your tongue is just like a sword, and when you say things, you can be extremely vicious when you talk to people or about people. That's something very common that you wouldn't say, oh, I'm just, that's lying to yourself. That's saying, oh, this is okay because I'm not really hurting that person. But actually, your words are just as hurtful as, physically hitting somebody, just mental. People don't realize that, in fact, this has come across in many different venues now, especially, when the pandemic was raging and people were talking about mental health, and more so that, we know how to treat a broken arm, but it's very difficult to treat an emotional issue of maybe rejection, or any other emotion you want to talk about, a broken heart, or abuse of some sort of mental abuse, physical, not physical abuse, but mental abuse. That's just as difficult to treat. In fact, more difficult to treat than something that's outwardly broken. So that's something these three things kind of touch on as well. So, John, how's it going tonight?
Good.
What do you think of this section of the book?
So I was trying to find this section of the book
Chapter
in the
9.
old manual because I have the old manual. I know I
Oh,
need
I
to get
don't,
the new manual.
you still don't have.
um, yeah, so I was trying to find what you were talking about, and I missed Sensei's class too. So more so, I'm like, whoo, what are you guys talking about exactly?
I don't think this is in the old manual. This is new. This is a new set.
Oh,
You
okay.
probably weren't going to find it in the old manual because it's only in this one,
I see. I see.
the revised edition, John.
Okay. Well, I mean, listening to the conversation, my question was, is letting go the same thing as not engaging?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, okay. Because I was thinking of it as a physical form, like
Hmm.
letting go, not engaging, and agreement. Like basically the, I don't know, like katate kosadori kokyu nage. I mean, if you,
Hmm.
I mean, in a physical form, if you were doing Aikido, you can choose three options. Is basically you can let go, or you can not engage, or you can agree. And agreement would be like connecting, maybe.
Sure. That's a
Yeah,
form of
right,
connecting agreement.
right. So I think, yeah, but
What he says in the very, as a result, we both move together in complete agreement to accomplish whatever needs doing. This is very effective and is what Aikido means. That's the last pretty much two sentences of that section, end of the chapter. And then it's got a picture of him doing a technique. And yeah, so you've seen me teach this before on the mat because I teach this in all the intro classes when we do Katade Kosadori Kokinage. You can fight with them and try to make them do it, or you can collapse, or you can keep 1 point. And by keeping 1 point, right, you become one with the other person,
mhm,
and then easily you can move together. So that's why it's so much easier to teach this on the mat rather than just kind of philosophically.
hi.
Yeah, yeah. So Vitaly, do you want to talk about this? Are you understanding all this?
Yes, hello, Sensei. Hello, everyone. I have some experience of this option, and um, my experience, my attention is moving from B to A and probably to C. When I'm doing Aikido on the mat, first of all, my attitude to that was like, I'm doing a technique. Don't prevent me. Don't prevent me from my doing a technique. I was inside of myself and don't pay attention on my uki. And the next, I guess it was B. The next was don't prevent. If you don't want to, don't prevent. I try to to help you. I'm doing a technique and I try to help you do technique with me. And the next option, probably C, because my senseis show and point out me on my on this attitude to the techniques, and now I'm trying to be C. But I think I can do C easily if I on the mat. But if on the street, for example, and I face to face with some not very good person, we can have two. Two goals which cannot be close one to one. the goal of some not good person is to harm me somehow, and my goal is not to be harmed. How can we connect in that situation, and how can we do something together? How can we be connected? It is a question.
So, you know, let me get this straight. How can this be? You're saying how can you come together
Yeah.
when you're off the mat? This is an off the mat situation when you're having a conflict maybe with somebody. How do you approach it and do option C rather than the other two? Right. Yeah. Okay. Um, Depending on the situation, of course. There's many ways to connect with people. Uh, if somebody's being super like aggressive, like hey, what's they're really upset. Like I deal with people that are very upset, and before when I look at them and I'm talking to them, I make it very noticeable that I'm taking a breath. And then I always start with, it sounds like, and then I repeat some of the frustrations that they've just unburdened on me. It sounds like whatever this is happening. And then I look for them to talk more. A lot of times when somebody's upset, they want to be heard. So you have to listen to them. If you don't listen, if you just come in with something like, oh, well, I can fix this, da 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 da, a lot of times it won't go over too well. You have to, when somebody's upset, they want to be heard. So you have to listen to what they have to say. And a lot of times, of course, maybe you're not there to fix their problem, but you can just listen to them and ask them what they want. So, what do you want from me? Or what's this about? Or, you ask a question to get them to reply to you. That's a technique, that you can use when faced with, I get people that are upset just customer service wise. People are angry, they didn't get what they thought. They're coming to me to complain, and I have to listen. I listen to exactly everything they say. If I'm in error, I'll absolutely apologize to them, because a lot of people want an apology if they believe it's your fault. If it's not your fault, then you can still listen to them. That's number one, because when you listen to somebody, really listen, you're connecting. That's option C right there. You've already set a foundation for option C just by listening to them. You've connected to them. And I think that, hearing people out is really important. And then, of course, you get other people who will, pull back, and they're doing option C. And you still want to. How do you connect with somebody who's pulling their key? They're not wanting to talk about it, and a lot of times people don't want to talk about. That's okay. You still can connect with them just by offering your heart to them, by being open to them in many ways. You could be open to them in many different ways. And I think that when people are pulling, they don't feel comfortable in the situation. You have to make them comfortable for them to actually open up to you, because you can't force somebody to talk to you. You can't do it. It just doesn't happen. But if you give them the opening, they're more apt to open up to you. And once the communication starts, then you can really listen to the person. And therefore, once that you give them an opening to to feel comfortable. Then you listen to them, which basically allows connection. And a lot of people after that will go, wow, I feel a lot better. They feel a lot better about what has happened or the situation that they're in. So I'd say, those two things are very important, making somebody feel comfortable and listening. Yeah, those two things go a long way in option C. You know, creating an atmosphere that is comfortable for everyone, not hostile to anybody. When some people feel comfortable, they're more apt to open up and talk, and that allows connection to be made. So, I don't know. Does that help you there, Vitali?
Yeah, thank you. But there can be some set of situations. For example, someone wants your wallet and only this, and he wants it.
If they want your wallet, you should probably give that to them. I mean, seriously, it's of course, there's levels and levels. If you're in fear for your life, you can do certain things. If you have something that somebody wants, just give it to them. I mean, that's the whole thing. The story of Bruce Lee in the elevator, and a guy. Bruce Lee's one of the greatest martial arts ever, and he's there with his friend in an elevator, and a guy walks in, holds up a knife, and says, "Give me your wallet." Bruce Lee handed it out and gave him his wallet. The guy left, and the guy said, "But you could have taken it." He goes, "I wanted my wallet. I gave it to him." I mean, it just depends on the attachment you have to whatever you want, whatever you have. I mean, the Dalai Lama tells a story about a watch, and he says, if you own a watch and you drop it and break it, you're going to feel bad. But if you're at a store and you're interested in buying the watch, and the person who's selling the watch picks it out and drops it and breaks it, you're not going to feel as bad because it's not yours yet. You're not attached to it. But we tend to get attached to whatever we have, and therefore we want to possess. That possession type thing. Of course, I mean, there's levels of what you're saying. Somebody wanting your wallet, of course, I just give it to them, and that's easier said than done, because maybe it's got your last $5 in it. But obviously he needs it more than you. Otherwise, he wouldn't be stealing. I don't know if that helps or not, but that's my take on it.
Thank you, Sensei.
You're welcome. We have some, Lucky, Rose, and Jack. If any of you guys want to chime in, feel free. We're open to hearing from you. I think everybody else has spoken. Does Fincher have anything else to add other than his question?
Hello, Sensei.
Oh, yes. Lucky.
I mean, I don't have too much to add that hasn't already been said, but I guess I can talk a little bit about my experience, which is the A, B, and C. Practicing that at the Hilo seminar was my first time actually encountering that example of training, of connection, and kind of also showing you where your mind is at, what you're doing versus you think you're doing. And that seemed to be a very good example for me of, at times I'm like, why isn't this working? Why am I not able to move this person? And 9 out of 10, it's because I'm overthinking, and because I'm overthinking, I'm not connecting with them. So the A, B, and C for me has been a very good pointer of showing me that I'm not as connected as I think I am.
Yes, I agree. And I remember you telling your story about the Hilo seminar before. It's a very good. That seminar was very good. I remember that seminar. It was very good. Thank you for sharing. Fincher, you're going to unmute yourself there, or are you good?
No, I do have a question, Sensei. As a follow-up on Vitali's question, I think maybe for guys more than, I don't know, but for guys, certainly, it comes down to that question. When someone, is in front of you, is threatening you physically or wanting to control you and take something that you have. And certainly what you suggested is one way, because to avoid conflict, but how is that not, I have two questions. How is that not number B, option B, collapsing? And the second question is, if we're looking in the book on this chapter and you see Sensei's photos of arts, and the bottom one is his uke flying through the air.
Yes.
And certainly that's not what the uke might not have wanted to do. However, it's an example of connection. So you have kind of like the example of giving person the wallet, which can be, I think, C or B, depending on how you look at it. And then you look at the picture that seems to be possibly A or C. A throwing someone across the room, or C connecting with them so that they get thrown across the room. So kind of a question there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, okay, yeah, there's, the example I give is, we're discussing about the giving of the wallet, is one way. However, I would have to say, you can give the wallet in a connected way, or even talk to the person. And I have an example. I was fifth Q in Arizona, right? And I was out with my buddies who didn't do Aikido, but they knew I did. And we had went up to my former college town to do a little drinking, let's say. And we're walking up to the bar, and literally 2 guys come flying out of the bar, and one guy pops his shoes off and gets in a karate stance, and he's starting to bob and weave, and he's gonna kick this biker's butt. This big biker bearded guy, and this guy's going, oh yeah, karate, look, and they're gonna go at it, right? And of course, about that time, the police show up and they break the things up and they go on their merry way, so to speak. They didn't arrest anybody, but they broke up the fight. What was going to be a fight? There was no fight. So my friends watch this, and then we proceed to go into the bar, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself because, I know Aikido at 5th Q. So we hit the bar, and it's really crowded, and people are, it's a bar. And this big guy, bumps into my friend, and of course, wants to pick a fight. No, let me intercede. Okay, so I get in between them, and I start poking my finger. He starts poking his finger in my chest, and we're, the levels are getting raised. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to do something. And I don't know Aikido that well to do anything. So I look at the guy and go, you know what? We could fight right here. In fact, if you want to fight, we can fight right now. But I'm here to drink beer. Can I buy you a beer? And he went, oh yeah, sure. And I bought him a beer, and we sat down and we talked, and there was no fight. But I tell you, I was pretty scared because I thought I was gonna have to do something, and it wasn't gonna be Aikido, I can tell you that. But I instantly thought, in my mind, what would, how do I de-escalate that situation? how do I and I wanted not to be, my friends are there watching me, and I couldn't collapse. I couldn't, show any fear, because then I'd be a laughing stock. So I had to really push my key out, in a sense, and go, if you really want to fight, come on, we can fight right now. But then I just said, but I'm here to drink beer. Would you like a beer? I'll buy you one. And it totally de-escalated the situation. So I got really lucky. I don't recommend that for anybody, but I got lucky. De-escalation, my friends, always works rather than fighting. I highly recommend de-escalation, not escalation, in any situation. And I was only 30 years old, so I was full of escalation back then. Well, with that being said, I do have a quote. I was going to read this at the beginning, but I kind of forgot. And I said, oh, I'll read in the middle, but I'll read it now. And it's a quote from O Sensei. In 1961, of course, O Sensei came to Hawaii. And at one of his, they had these banquets. At one of the banquets, he gave a little speech, and it was translated. And it said, I've come to Hawaii in order to build a silver bridge. Until now, I've remained in Japan building a golden bridge to unite Japan. But henceforward, I wish to build a bridge to bring the different countries of the world together through the harmony and love contained in Aikido. I think that Aiki, offspring of the martial arts, can unite the people of the world in harmony, in the true spirit of Budo, and developing the world in unchanging love. So that's a quote from O Sensei. I liked it. I thought I would read it. And then I'll close tonight with another quick story. Once two brothers lived next to each other, only separated by a river. A feud many years prior caused each brother to dislike each other, and their feud intensified until the older brother called a carpenter. When the carpenter arrived, he told him, I want you to make a high wall next to the river so I no longer have to see my brother or his house ever again. Build a wall. The older brother left for the day and told the carpenter that I want to see it ready when I come back. The carpenter nodded and smiled. When the brother returned, he was surprised, as the carpenter had made a bridge instead of a wall. He asked him, What did you do? This is not what I asked for. Just then, the younger brother walked across the bridge and came towards the man. He looked at him and said, Brother, after all of our fighting, I thought you would build a wall to shut me out, but instead, you built a bridge to still keep connecting with me. You truly love me. The carpenter smiled and went on his merry way. So with that, we'll close the class, and I'll see you guys next week. Domo arigato gozaimashita. Thank you all very much, and see you either Wednesday or Friday or Sunday. See ya.